Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for an introduction to the path of the spiritual warrior. This is a spiritual program created for veterans, first responders, and other survivors of trauma, created specifically with their skill set and background in mind. So before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Chris Alicia. I am the founder of Ascended Warrior and an Air Force veteran. Now, when I went through the military and eventually transitioned out, I faced a lot of the same problems that I've seen across the community. A lack of direction, a lack of motivation, definite bouts of depression, to the point where I felt like I was just constantly spiraling in between being kind of lost and being tragically sad. Those problems that I experienced for maybe the first decade after leaving the military led me to look really hard at myself to try to figure out why it was that I was feeling so disconnected. For me, it led me to spirituality, which, just to put the definition right out there, for me, spirituality wasn't about God. It wasn't about a religion. It wasn't about a dogma. For me, spirituality was about me. It was about understanding who I was. It was understanding why I felt like I was missing my passion for life. So I define spirituality as that. It's that unique you element. It's that thing that makes you feel passionate about life, that makes you feel connected to life, makes you want to get up in the morning. So when I started researching spirituality, and I researched every form that you can possibly imagine, I realized that the disconnect wasn't just that I was feeling emotionally vulnerable. It wasn't that I felt unmotivated in the careers that I was in, or couldn't communicate well with my coworkers or even my family to tell them what it was that was bothering me. The bottom line is I didn't know what was bothering me. I know I felt lost. I know I felt unworthy. And it wasn't until I really spent a lot of time and did a lot of exercises on introspection to figure out what it was that was making me feel those things. Is like most veterans out there, my experience with the VA and with getting out of the military was like trying to slap a band-aid on a hemorrhage. They didn't care about the root cause of why I was feeling those ways or thinking that way, or hell, even what to do about the pain that I was physically in from my time in service. They wanted to give me a set of pills, uh, one or two therapy appointments over the phone, and that was it. They checked their box and they said, okay, we've done what we can. They were dealing with high level symptoms. They weren't even going below those symptoms to figure out how to make them better. And maybe at the end of the day, they can't. Maybe at the end of the day, the VA, the government, the police force, the fire department, they cannot take care of us as Chris or as John. They can take care of us as numbers because there's too many of us. Maybe that's true. But when I really started doing my own work, I realized that all of those symptoms were masking an underlying problem that I had never even considered. And that really isn't being discussed now out in the media when they talk about the massive amount of suicides that we have every day, the substance abuse that we suffer from, the depression, the homelessness, the aggression, the broken families. If you look at the symptoms that cause all those things, and that's all that you treat, maybe you'll find a way to be happier. Maybe you'll find a way to communicate better with your family. Maybe you'll find a medication to help balance out some of the chemical reactions that lead to depression. But at the end of the day, it's not dealing with the cause. What I have found, and I can't claim this to be universally true with everybody out there that has had a service related career. But at the end of the day, what I have seen and what was true for me was that I did not know who I was. Think about when you join the military or join the police force, 18, 21 years old. You barely know yourself at that point. Hell, you probably don't even know yourself till your mid-30s. You grow up with a ton of false labels being attached to you. You're a son, you're a brother, you're an athlete, you're overweight, you're a jock, you're a tomboy, you're a girly girl, you're the mean girl. All of these labels come with identities. They attach to you to a point where you you assimilate them into who you are. For me, I was called a tomboy. I was athletic. I had not a girly bone in my body. I adopted those labels as truth, and I moved my personality around to fit into that box. But those weren't really who I was. That was elements, things that I did. You know, I liked sports, so it just kind of made sense. I took those labels and I adopted them. When we go into a service related industry, like, you know, being a doctor or a medic, it is an all consuming identity. You no longer fit into those tiny little boxes of the jock or the brainiac. You are now a soldier. You are a doctor. That label comes with incredible responsibilities and very, very strict guidelines on what you can look like, what you can sound like, what you can feel. They break down who you are into an MOS. You are now labeled. You are identified. And this identifier, again, this is not who you are. This is something that you do. Who you are beneath that has no place in these careers. And again, we could argue whether that's good or not, but if you look at the way a lot of these fields start, for me, military basic training, their goal is to break you down and build you up into a soldier. Now, they do this by disconnecting very critical parts of yourself. They disconnect the emotions and they disconnect your individuality, your spirit. Because what they want is someone who can problem solve, someone who can follow directions, and who is physically fit. They're looking for mind and they're looking for body. So when you disconnect critical elements of a person, especially at the crucial age 18 to 21, and you slap this false identifier on top of them, they're not only going to absorb it and take it in, it is going to become them. It becomes all consuming. It becomes our sense of pride. It becomes our sense of self-worth. It becomes our reason for loving ourselves. And it becomes the reason that we feel other people love us. So what happens when you get out? What happens when that super identifier is gone? Being a veteran is not the same thing as saying I was a soldier or an airman. Being a veteran does not have the same support structure. So when that label is stripped away from you and you are still disconnected from your unique individuality, you are still a mind and you're a body, and that false identifier is gone, think about how that would make you feel. Logically, how that would make anybody feel. You're going to feel like you don't know who you are. You're going to feel like you don't know what you're supposed to do with your life. Maybe the best days of your life are behind you. Maybe there is nothing else in this world that you can do that will give you that same sense of accomplishment. You're certainly not going to know how to explain yourself to your family. You're not going to know how to talk to coworkers, how to even interview for jobs. How do you go back to school? That identifier was so massive that we wrap our entire selves up into it. And possibly rightly so. I can absolutely say without a shadow of doubt that joining the military was the best thing I ever did. Healing from that took a tremendous amount of time. Because at the end of the day, when I got out, I did not know who I was. It took me decades to do enough research to even say that that was the problem, that I had allowed all the false identities that I'd collected over my life overwhelm me, blind me, and really distract me from the fact that I didn't know who I was. So, how in God's name was I going to get anybody else to accept me? How can you have confidence if you don't know who you are? How can you know what career field to go after? How do you know what your passions are if you don't know who you are? It is such a simple yet astronomical problem that these career fields have. They disconnect you from the most critical parts of who you are. And they do it for a reason. But once they're done with you, they don't reconnect you. They leave you broken. For me, spirituality led me to a search for self. And I took many, many years and lots of trial and error to find out who I was, not who society said I was, not who the military said I was, not who my family said I was, who I was, to find out what I was passionate about, what my life purpose was, not what is my career, not what is my next goal, what is my purpose? What was I born with the gifts to do? And then what can I do with them? That process of finding out who I was, what I was capable of doing, and how to utilize it took me a very, very long time. And the more I watched my fellow veterans struggle to be labeled with mental illnesses, to be given drugs, to be ignored, to suffer in silence, the more I felt called to do something about it, which is why I started Ascended Warrior. An Ascended Warrior is spiritual and mindfulness practices that I've picked up over my 2 decades. That sounds like a long time. 2 decades of studies to help veterans, first responders, and other warriors find out who they are, what they're here to do, and how to do it. The program that I've created to really encompass all of these steps is called the Path of the Spiritual Warrior. Now, the Path of the Spiritual Warrior is a 4-month virtual class. It's a mix of one-on-one and group classes, one session a week, 60 to 90 minutes a session online, with the timings being really based on the class. What I plan to do with this class is do no more than 11 students. And what we're doing is we're building a community that is going to go through this process of self-identification together to support each other, to build that camaraderie that we all miss when we leave service, which is probably one of the most disheartening parts of getting out, is you lack that bond, that brother and sister in arms type of relationship. This program is intended to build that again. But instead of just being a soldier, now we're finding you, the whole human you, and bonding you with a group of like-minded people that can support your journey and move through this 4-month with you. Now, each of the months has a completely different goal. And just like the military, the first month is all about breaking you down. But instead of breaking you down to build you up to this false identity, it's breaking you down to find out who you are when you strip away all those labels. When you take away everything society has told you you are supposed to think and feel and do, who are you? What are your greatest strengths? What are your greatest passions? When were the times in life when you felt the most connected to who you are, the most proud of yourself? You take those exercises and break down the gifts, the strengths that you have, that you were born with, that you've cultivated over time that made you feel passionate about life. That is how we find out who you are. Another trick of this is learning how to silence the ego. So the ego is that little mind or that little voice in your head that's telling you you're not good enough, that's telling you nobody can understand what you're going through and that you are alone. Now, the ego is there for some good purposes too. But one of the things that I've learned through my spiritual studies was how to crush the ego. And I always like that term, crush the ego, to silence that little voice so that you are no longer doubting yourself. You're no longer questioning what feels right to you. You're now doing what feels right. When you silence that voice, you're able to trust yourself. You're able to build confidence in yourself. And it helps to pull you out of that cycle of depression that is really nothing more than this feeling of loss and that ego reminding you of what you used to be. So that whole first month is breaking down all of that false crap, all of the armor that we have put on our bodies over the years, and silencing that little voice in our heads so that when you are sitting in the silence of you, you know who you are. Month 2 is about dealing with the trauma. So now that you understand who you are, we need to work through the scars that we've accumulated over our lifetime. Now, there's a really funny thing when it comes to the brain. The brain is like a hard drive. It collects information. So when you think about a traumatic experience in your life, like just right now, think about someone who wronged you. Play it through in your mind. Remember what they were wearing, what they said. When we do this, the brain brings up that experience as if it's happening to you right now. You're feeling an emotion attached to something that is not happening anymore. Why? We have the ability to detach emotion from memory. We do not have to keep replaying the same incidents over and over and experiencing the same fear, the same guilt. We can detach emotion from memory. And there are exercises to do that. There are meditations that you can use to help work through that. The whole month is about going through the emotional trauma that you've experienced in your life and releasing the emotion, releasing the charge behind it. Think of the times where you've just lashed out at your family or felt angry at somebody for, honestly, you don't know why. That's because there's an emotional trigger inside of you attached to something. We find that trigger. We find that memory that still haunts you, that you still dream about, and we detach the emotion through practice, through really practical meditation, mantra, mindfulness exercises. What we're doing is we're taking all that scar tissue that you've accumulated over your lifetime, ripping them open, and then allowing them to truly heal so that you don't have to hold on to that emotion anymore. You can not just forgive, but forget. It does not have the same power that it used to anymore. And let me tell you from my own experience, when you learn to release trauma, it is like a weight has been lifted off of your heart. The people that you used to fear seeing, didn't want to think about, everything you see around you triggers that memory of them. Doesn't anymore. You can get to a point where you are not only in control of your emotions, but you have released that anger, that feeling of unworthiness, of fear, of guilt. Because whatever the experience was, it cannot hurt you anymore. That is what the entire second month is about. Releasing old scar tissue and the emotional triggers that we hold. Just think about what your life would be like with that alone. The third month is about reprogramming. So now that we have found out who we are, We've learned to control our emotions, how to release negative patterns in our life. Now it's time to start programming in new information. So if you think of the brain like a hard drive, there are very specific pathways that information takes. If somebody steps on my toe, I know I'm going to go here. And every time, it's going to be a beautiful straight line. Every time somebody steps on my toe, I already know the path I'm going to take. What if I don't want to keep taking that path? What if I don't want someone stepping on my toe to send me from 0 to 60? That is what the third month is about. Programming in new patterns of behavior. And we do this, again, through meditation and mindfulness, but also through mantras, through consciousness, through awareness. Now that you've been able to recognize what your emotions do and what your memories can do, you're able to start changing the program. So instead of going from 0 to 60 every time somebody bumps into you or cuts in front of you, you have the ability to recognize that it's happening and insert a new program so that you are not triggered by the same things. You are retraining yourself to healthier patterns of behavior and emotions. So if we had disconnected our emotions and our spirit in the military and in service, this is the month where we start putting it all back together. You know who you are, you know how you feel. Now we start using that other side of ourselves, that emotion, that spirit, and we start incorporating it into our daily lives to make us happier, to make our interactions with our families more poignant, more fulfilling, more loving. We make our ability to talk to our coworkers more satisfactory, more professional, so they don't think we're as aggressive anymore. We learn to look at ourselves in the mirror and say how much we love ourselves, how powerful we are. That might sound wonky, but learning to see how amazing you are, it's not an easy thing for people to do. To honestly look at themselves and say, I love who I am. That is what this month is about. Reprogramming behavior and getting to a point where you are now operating from a place of a whole person. And this takes practice. This takes support. This is why we're using that one-on-one and the group scenario so that we can support each other. The fourth month is about empowering. This is where we set goals for what's next. Most of the transitioning folks that I've met have a lot of questions about what they should do with their lives. That is what this month is about. Setting goals, goals for your family, goals for work, for education, for friendship, for love, and using that wonderful accountability that has been beaten into all of us to accomplish those goals. So one of the things that we'll use here is something called manifestation. Learning to focus your thoughts on what it is that you want in a way that helps you achieve your goals. That is a very watered down way of saying it, and it's a lot more fun and cool than that. But it is about finding out what it is you want to do, setting the steps to get there to achieve your goals, and supporting each other to achieve them. So that final month is about working together to achieve the goals of who you really are, achieving what you're passionate about in every aspect of your life. So that when you're done with the 4 months, you know you have built a love for yourself, a love for your family and friends, a love for the world around you, and a passion for your future. Now, after those 4 months, we have a culminating final retreat, which is going to be 3 to 5 days. And if you're familiar with spiritual retreats, it's not going to be like that because we're not like that. We're warriors. So our retreat's going to be a little bit more physical. I'm looking at maybe some off-roading, some nights around the campfire where we can meet in person, share that camaraderie, share some war stories, still practice all that wonderful stuff we've learned through the 4 months, and end the session, end the program from a place of companionship, a way of celebrating what it is we have done together over the 4 months. So the tools that I plan on using for this entire program are many. The higher arching ones is definitely meditation and mindfulness. So learning to be in the present moment so that you don't go back into the past and start pulling up old emotions and old scars. Learning what to do when you feel that trigger of emotion by focusing here and now. Learning breath work to calm you down, to help make your body healthier, to deal with sleep disorders, certainly anger, depression. Meditation has a plethora of applications. What I do for each of the people in the group is every month I create a meditation for that individual person based on what it is that they're working on, based on what it is that I feel will help them on their journey. And they'll be given that meditation to do every evening, something to help that part of their journey. Mantras are phrases of power. So things that you say multiple times in order to create that new pathway that I talked about. For instance, I am powerful. If you say that while looking at yourself in the mirror 3 times a day, every day, within a week, you're going to start to feel differently. It's just the way it works. You are reprogramming your brain, your heart, and your body to respond to verbal cues. So every group session, the participants will be given mantras to support that week's events, to help lift them up past that place of fear and of sadness and of anger, to recognize who they are, what they are here to do, and how they can achieve it. So meditation, mindfulness, and mantras are definitely the baseline of this course. Another aspect of it is the alchemy aspect. Alchemy is about control over your emotions, over your body, and over your mind. That's really the basis of alchemy. There's so many wonderful exercises in there, like the ones for the ego, where you learn to silence that little voice inside of you, where you learn to control the emotions, where you learn to change the way your body reacts to certain events. So taking the very practical aspects of alchemy, in addition to the mindfulness and meditations, you get practical exercises for each phase of this, including things that you take home and you do on a regular basis. The last major step is the dream work. Now, many people don't pay attention to their dreams, but the bottom line is we spend more time in a dream state than we do awake. And the information that comes to us in our dreams is valuable. Now, I've done a lot of studies on dreams. I've done coursework, I've been certified and all sorts of wonderful stuff. The bottom line is dreams have been proven to hold information of value. The trick is they come to you in a way that only you can understand. They come to you in symbols versus words. Now, some of my favorite dreamers in the world, General Patton was a famous dreamer. He recorded his dreams and even planned some of the battles in World War II around what his dreams were telling him. He had a dream about the German army fleeing from Russia, carrying their dead in carts, and he knew that the Germans were ready to be taken. Einstein, also a very, very famous dreamer. It was said his theory of relativity came to him in a dream. So with that level of wisdom in our dreams, we would be silly not to pay attention. So from week 1, the participants are going to learn how to journal their dreams. There are techniques, if you don't remember your dreams, there are techniques to help you recall your dreams. All of this will be taught to you, as well as different ways to interpret. And what we're going to do on those weeks where it's just one-on-one, we're going to have a dream group. It'll be one of the evenings of the week, and the times will be set based on the class. a time where we come together again as this community to share whatever dreams it is that we're having and allow the group to help interpret them. You start to sync with each other when you do this in an absolutely incredible way. So, this pattern of dream group and dream analysis will continue through the entire program. And I'm very, very passionate about it. In fact, my purpose in life, this program, came to me in a dream. So, that is something I want to share and give back. Now, something that took me a long time to come to terms with was the price of these programs. Now, these types of programs are thousands and thousands of dollars. I am not comfortable charging people who have served their country. So, what I've done is I've partnered with a nonprofit group, Center for Conscious Awareness, who help collect donations for programs that help to bring consciousness, mindfulness to the world. And I've partnered with them specifically to build scholarships for Ascended Warrior programs. Now, these scholarships are available for any veterans, any first responders, and I'm even working on making them available to their spouses so that they can take these programs free of charge. All that we would ask for anybody on scholarship is that they make a donation, however much they're comfortable with, to pay it forward so that other soldiers, police, medics are able to take the program as well. If you are interested in looking at the scholarship program, it is a very, very easy form to fill out. It comes to me, and I will get back in touch with you to see what it is that you are interested in doing, what program it is you're interested in doing, whether it's the 4-month or even some of the smaller ones. And we'll move forward with getting your scholarship approved so that you can start growing and healing now. Anybody listening to this is interested in donating, we do have donate options, whether it's just however much you want to donate, and any amount helps, or if you want to donate to sponsor a very specific veteran, that is possible as well. We're looking to create relationships with companies and organizations who support veterans to make regular donations and sponsor veterans to go through these programs. If you're interested in any of that information, in the scholarships, or even making a donation, check out www.ascended-warrior.com, and I'll put all the information here in the link to make a donation or sign up for a scholarship. You can also find out more information about all the programs that we're doing, more about my background, and videos that I've done. I do blogs all the time with little informational things on how to work on the ego, how to focus on your dreams, mindfulness. Those videos come out a couple times a week, and they are free for anybody. Those who participate in the program will be given special access to information that was created just for that program and for the individuals who come. We are each unique. We have our own paths to heal. But if we get down to the root and we find out who we are, then we can support each other to grow and to heal, to release that trauma that, quite frankly, we do not need to hold. Being a quiet professional doesn't mean you need to suffer. In fact, when we come together and support each other, the things that we can do are endless. If this program sounds of interest to you, please message me or email me at chrisp@ascended-warrior.com. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook. You can join those groups to learn more information, to sign up for updates, and to get regular video posts. If you're looking for exclusive information, content, or discounts on any of the packages, check out the website. You can join the newsletter, and you'll get weekly newsletters explaining what it is that's coming up, including information on bigger retreats, collaboration, and other joint efforts I'm doing with other workers. I hope this has helped to spark a little hope and passion for anybody who's watching or listening. Veterans and first responders are the most incredible people I have ever met. And I am absolutely privileged to call myself a part of those communities because we are disciplined. We put others' needs before ourselves. We've all gotten to the point where we've given more than we can. So now it's time to give back. It's time for you to receive. And it's time for you to heal. You can do anything. And with Ascended Warrior, I like to help you get there. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, again, please email or message and check out more information on ascended-warrior.com.